a brand new day, and we'll be making history. Are you with me? Won't you stay? We have come so far. This is who we are. And like the rising sun, we have just begun to play our part. This is the time we form the chorus. Lift your voice for those before us. We can rely on one another. Feel the pride, let's show our colors. We are heroes and dreamers. We are restless believers.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. This is Gail of Gaia, and this is Free Range, where we graze on wild ideas, and we have wonderful guests. And I'm honored to have Mr. Michael Lee Hill on today, and he has some very interesting, a very interesting background and a story to tell. So I'm going to let him explain more about himself and his story because it's very interesting. Hi, Michael. Welcome.
Welcome to you.
So how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to, you have some a very interesting background. And we were going to talk about Wingmakers and how you got into that, and ETs and that kind of thing. So wherever you want to go first, just go ahead.
Well, I was born in 1968. No, we don't have to go back that far, huh? I guess why I'm here is more than likely it was because I was featured on the History Channel on UFO hunters, and it was because of my Lake Erie UFO footage. But they had a hunch that they had filmed another contactee / experiencer skywatcher. His name was Terrell Copeland, and they had talked to him a couple weeks before they came to Cleveland to film me, and they were kind of shocked because he had filmed the exact same orbs of light that I have over Lake Erie, had the same story of contact, same spiritual message was given to him, kind of like that law of attraction, thoughts create reality kind of thinking. But the military, he was a Marine, and they had found out he had an unknown blood anomaly that none of the best military doctors in the world could figure out. So they thought, wouldn't it be weird if these two guys that don't know each other, if I ended up with the same blood anomaly? So they asked me if I'd be willing to go to Boston to have my, they just said a follow-up. They're pretty smart because, man, I am a baby and I don't like needles at all. But
I don't blame you.
no, man, I've had my share too. We can get into, I've had a weird year of some really bizarre, we'll just say I've had my fill of shots over the last year. But when I got to Boston, that's when I found out they were taking me to have my blood work and medical work done by a Harvard professor. His name was David Systrom. And cut to the chase, sure enough, they said, yeah, you have this exact same blood anomaly. We can get into what it is. I'm very well educated in it now. But man, I was like, wait a minute. This isn't a TV show to me anymore. What are you talking about? I don't have normal human blood, What?
So what am I? Yeah, really.
Yeah, like
I look pretty human.
Something I should be worried about here, And the guy was actually kind of not very nice about it. And he's like, what do you think unknown means? We don't know what to tell you. He said, if I had to venture a guess, I would think that there's some type of virus at work that's releasing these massive amounts of, it's an enzyme called creatine kinase that they found in my blood. Normal amounts of creatine kinase in the blood are 25 parts per liter of blood. if you've had muscle damage or had a heart attack, those levels can go up to about 250 to 300 tops because creatine kinase brings extra oxygen into the bloodstream to facilitate healing. And what they found in my blood was I was at 2100 versus 25. So if you look at that, my blood would be super oxygenated. Is that a
Yeah.
word? Oxygenated.
Yes, it is.
And so what I found out is the more oxygen in the bloodstream, the more chi or prana or life force, electricity you can
Oh, yeah. That
hold
makes
at a
sense.
cellular level. And they're like, yeah, you have it too. See, your plane's waiting for you. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute, you know? So he said, if I were you, I would contact my family doctor. I didn't have a family doctor. But the weird thing was they couldn't find any medical reason for this astronomical amount of creatine kinase in my blood. And
And it wasn't having any adverse effects that you were aware of?
no,
And you were just,
I never even knew, you know.
uh-huh. So
I know
apparently it was working with your physiology without being a problem for you.
yeah, I think, you know, if it's from birth or, you know, from what I understand, it's not constant, you know, because this led to, after this happened and it was revealed on the History Channel, UFO Hunters, it's episode Alien Contact. And it's in the season 1. Interestingly enough, we can get into all this, but during that show, the host of that and the guy that owns UFO magazine, his name is William Burns. He's also a New York Times best-selling author. He wrote The Day After Roswell with Colonel Philip Corso. But anyhow, during the show, he said, I think that you guys are hybrids and that you're being given a course of study. You're going to be contacted by a secret group of the government to give you a course of study to understand, prepare you to meet your extraterrestrial higher component or counterpart. And I was like, what is this dude on? You know?
Your family.
But right after that is the show aired in March of 2008. The summer of 2008, I was invited to go to a festival called Sirius Rising. It was in New York. And, you know, I know now that the Anunnaki are Syrians, but at that time I didn't even know what an Anunnaki was. And
I didn't know Anunnakis were Syrians.
Syrian and Pleiadian, depending on what side of the family. My
That's
brother's side, well, we can get into that. On one side is half Syrian, half Pleiadian, and the other side of the family is pure Syrian. But I guess, you know, that in a nutshell, that's why we're talking. And what I can tell you is at that festival, Sirius Rising, I was met by some beings, and they said, we want to talk to you. First of all, we heard you've been filming us over Lake Erie. I'm like, all right, yeah, definitely been filming, you know, the UFOs. And we can get into that too. I've learned a lot. But they said on the History Channel, this blood anomaly that was revealed is an indicator that you're of our hybrid bloodline called the Nephilim in the Bible. And we want to talk to you about that. And so that set up the first meeting and turned into a council meeting with the Anunnaki. We can get into as much detail on any of this as you want, but that was in 2008. So you can imagine.
You've learned a lot since then, right? And had more
Yeah, it's been
experiences.
a crash course.
I find it fascinating and it's very interesting. And I know that I'm pretty sure my listening audience would be very interested. So you can just keep going on that because it is very interesting. I do have a picture because that you had posted on your Facebook when you were getting your blood drawn.
Oh, yeah.
You want me to show that? Okay.
Yeah, why not?
Let me
I had to
just-
act like a big boy, like, yeah, that don't hurt. I'm like, what the hell? You're gonna be sticking a needle in my arm. What?
Oops, I did the wrong one. That's not what I want. I want to share my screen. That's what I want. Now I just gotta find. I'm gonna have to bring that one up, but in the meantime, why don't we look at your page here just real quickly? I don't mean to change the subject, but I have to find. I gotta find that picture.
Ah, right on. What you're showing now, those are all of this contact with the Anunnaki led to what I call cosmic harmonious frequency energy disks. And we can get into all of this because of Richard Hoagland. He was NASA's science advisor through the Apollo missions. And he's the guy that found out there's a face on Mars. And he contacted me and said, we know your story sounds batshit crazy, but NASA's been looking into how energy flows multidimensionally. And the numbers you're bringing to the table that I learned from the Anunnaki are right on the money. So he said, I'd like to get NASA involved to look into your work. And what I sent NASA is that disc on the left there. And actually, that's not the actual disc. I make 3 different versions of what they found is really incredible. We can get into that. But the lady from NASA.
Here, let me stop sharing that. Okay. Now I found the other one, but I keep talking. Just keep.
I'll bring that up because we can just start from there. Because it's a good confirmation that I'm not crazy. Because people are like, "Oh man, if you had not human blood, that'd be all over the news." I'm like, "Well, I'm not making it up. You can just watch the show."
Yeah, why would
you know what I
really?
mean? Like,
Exactly.
I could make this shit up if I had to. I'd be writing for Hollywood,
Yeah, I keep waiting for that. Why is it not coming up for me? This is the one I want. I'm sorry about this.
no worries. I can just go on. So
I'm gonna get it though. So just keep talking.
After the History Channel aired is when I met the Anunnaki. And it was really strange because, like I said, Bill Burns on the show states that I'm going to be contacted by a secret group of the government. And sure enough, I was contacted by a gentleman named A.R. Borden. And I just shared, he was the head of the reverse engineering division and remote viewers for the NSA. And he's known as the person known as 15 in the Wingmakers cosmology. We can get into that. He was known as 15 because he was the 15th person to hold that position within, I'm sure your listeners might have heard of the Majestic 12. Well, he had a seat on that council, and he was the 15th person to hold it, and that's why he was known as 15. But
this is something that I can just show this real quick. From you're talking about the. Oh, wait a minute. That's not right. That's that's the wrong one. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I can't seem to get it up for some reason. I don't know why either.
No worries.
Sorry about that.
It's all good. What she was going to show you is me getting a needle stuck, in my arm here by a nurse. And like I said, I was totally caught off guard. Like, I didn't know they're going to be taking blood from me and having it air. But so what happened? I didn't know that this is the reverse engineering division of the NSA, who's been working in technology transfer programs. The NSA called them TTPs. And they were already, the Anunnaki met with President Eisenhower in the early 1950s. And they went into they wanted to go public, but our government didn't think people were ready. So they just
They've
went
been saying
into,
that forever. They still say that today.
yeah, well, it's being taken out of their hands right now.
Good.
Um,
Good.
but so what happened was they brought me into the fold. AR Borden contacted me, and they knew that when I met the Anunnaki in 2008, they said, now, mind you, I didn't know who the Anunnaki was. There was no Ancient Aliens on TV. I didn't know who Zachariah Sitchin was, had no clue of any of this. They said, in your past, we were known as the Anunnaki. And in your past, you were known as Ea Inki, the water bearer. I'm like,
that's really wild right there.
like, what? You know, like, well, what the hell's a water bearer, right? But like I said, NASA's got involved now, and the technology I've been given, for one thing, they found out it resurrects dead municipal tap water. It revitalizes it back into living spring water energetics. And I got all the science from NASA. So now I can look someone in the eye and go, you know what? I am the water bearer. You know, would you like to,
I know how to purify it.
yeah,
That's fascinating, and that's really necessary because we get a lot of chemicals in our water. Oh my God.
You know what's really cool is then, because of all of this, I got contacted by someone through NASA and said, we think you should be aware that Elon Musk is taking a crystal time capsule to the moon. And pretty much it has every book ever written in every language, every blueprint, every circuit ever invented, all the blueprints for like an iPad and, iPhone, whatever. And they're using quantum computing and nanotechnology to be able to encode massive amounts of data into a quartz crystal. And where it came in was one drawer in that library was going to be called Humanity's Hall of Fame. And pretty much, I think that, excuse my language, but as long as you didn't send them a dick pic, it was going to get included, But sure enough, the Anunnaki told me this, none of this is by coincidence, because NASA has already found that this disk is putting out a field that's bringing through the biophysicist she's a NASA consulting biophysicist. Her name is Beverly Rubik, and she's a world-renowned expert in subtle energy field, around the human body and water, whatever. Because you can imagine NASA wants to know that the water they're bringing into space for the astronauts are the most energetic possible. So they have the technology to see how much life force or prana or chi is in water. And so sure enough, they found it's opening up a portal through the fabric of space-time. I know this sounds crazy, but the reason this even came, because I have all the data. I have, control for California municipal tap water. It was in the worst shape because we don't understand, by putting fluoride and chlorine and sending it down miles of pipe and making it take a right turn, we're killing it. Our water has no more energy left in it. It's dead. And no matter how much of that water you drink, man, you're not going to be hydrated. It's, and you're going to get disease. You're going to,
But I just saw a short little TikTok video too of a guy where he took regular municipal water. He held his hand in it for a while, and then he tested it and showed the chlorine in it. Well, the interesting thing about it was when he pulled his hand out of the one that he didn't treat in any way, the chlorine was gone out of the water too. It was all absorbed into his hand.
It's funny to bring that up. Water has memory.
Yes,
Dr. Emoto, right? I'm sure you know about Dr. Emoto.
Yes, I had his person that is carrying on his work on the show.
Beautiful. I'm such a fan of his work.
Yeah. Her name is hard to pronounce. Otherwise, I'll tell you. But anyway, okay. I get it.
So I don't even know where I was at, but that's the beginning of the story. It's Anunnaki meeting them. They're telling me I'm part of their hybrid bloodline, and simultaneously, I'm being met by the head of the reverse engineering division, and me taken into the fold of, I was brought in as what they call the contact practitioner. And that was someone that would work within the reverse engineering division to facilitate communication with the Anunnaki. And this has all happened. What I didn't anticipate is they would start using crop circles, because even the head of this NSA program said, you're being brought into a course of study on cosmic harmonious frequencies. And he said, to create physical matter, you need specific frequencies, but not specific, just one specific frequency. You need specific frequencies in specific combination. So that would either be a chord or a melody. And so sure enough, they started, well, let me tell you, actually, this is why, what about the crop circles I sent you? Are we going to be able to bring those up?
I think what I can do is I can take it to your, where you have them on listed on your Facebook page. Would that be okay? I can share the screen? Would you rather
Yeah.
not do it that way?
No, that's fine. I kind of forgot I posted it. Is it the one with the 5 crop circles on my Facebook page?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, that's
Let me
good.
see what I can do.
Because then I can, instead of, talking about a crop circle, it's kind of like trying to tell someone what an orange tastes like that never tasted an orange. I'd rather show the image and actually be able to, for them to see it. But what had happened was, I'm gonna hang on 1 second, see if I can bring that up.
Okay, let me do the share. I had to find it. Now I got. That's not it. Where's the other one? There we go. I finally found it. That's one of them. Do you see that?
That is one of them, but that's actually a video I did of my music. This isn't what we're looking for, unfortunately. I'll keep going down.
See if I find it.
You know what? I got way too much time on my hands right now, and I'm posting a lot.
That was a good one. Oh, you post some funny stuff. It makes me laugh, and I like that.
You know what, man? Chief Bull and Light Eagle, we can get into the Native American First Nation component of this, but he always told me humor is the best medicine in the world. And we can get, that's a good image to show later, but keep on going.
Okay. Oh.
Nope.
That's not the right ones. Okay.
I'm going. It's weird to see my page scrolling by. It's like, oh man, you're gonna think I'm a freak. That's the actual crop circle that I'm going to talk about, but there's an image of that particular crop circle, because
I'm trying to find
it's got to be coming up.
It's in the message.
This will be worth the wait. That's it. Okay. These are in order, and it starts with the top left. But the first crop circle that was part of this communication is actually the second one. And then I realized there was another one the year previous. But can you click on that second image on the top right?
Let's see. I have to go into the.
Or you know what? We can just leave it there. Actually, maybe it'll be easier.
I don't know. This thing doesn't work the way I want it to always either.
They never do. You know what? You can just leave it there. So what happened was the Anunnaki. Perfect. They said, as I said, the Anunnaki, during the first meeting, said you were once known as Ea Inki, the water bearer. And so in early 2009, I said, I went into meditation and, contact. And I asked them, I said, if you are who you say you are, and I am who you say I am, encode the name Ia Inki into a crop circle. And that'll be my confirmation that you are who you say you are, and I am who you say I am. And this crop circle showed up in Italy, and it's called Corona, Italy, in 2011. So first of all, I got to tell you that there's 2 years of waiting for this crop circle to show up. But you see, first of all, it's built on a 7-pointed star, right? Hugely important. But at each point of that 7-pointed star, do you see how there's a row of circles? And each one is different. It's like filled in, empty, empty, filled in, empty, filled in. See what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That is actually ASCII binary code. And when you decode it, it spells out Ia space Inki. So this became very, very important to me because of the first crop circle that I asked them for this crop circle and they listened. But after I said encode the name Ia Inki into a crop circle, I thought, how silly. Can you imagine a crop circle showing up that just had Inki written in cursive? It'd be like,
yeah, that was, yeah.
What the hell is that going to prove? It looks like a big birthday cake,
Yeah, that's pretty creative, that's for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's what I said. You know what? Heck with it. If you are who you say you are, encode the name Ia Inki in a cool way. Figure out a way to do it. And then I got really cocky. I said, while you're at it, encode it with something only I would be able to decode. And that is the 7-pointed star, because between 2009 and 2011, I spent my time being guided into a new science called cymatics, which is a new science of making frequency visible. And that this frequency that the Anunnaki had guided me into is called 432 hertz. A hertz is a measurement of science of a waveform, how many cycles per second. And what's interesting is right now our musical standard is 440, and that was set by a Nazi scientist in the 40s. And I can tell you they knew what they're doing. It's the least harmonious frequency that you could possibly get. But when you back it off to 432, it creates perfect geometry. But when you put a 432 base frequency, which is 27 hertz, man, just explain this to the crowd. Just because you got your middle A note on a piano, which is the middle A note, there's still a lower A note. It's called an octave. And then another lower A note and another lower A note as you go down and higher. This is super important for what we're going to be getting into. Because what I found out is 27 hertz, which is exactly 4 octaves below 432. When you put it through a cymatic device, which now it's evolved to where they use a vat of water and they pump frequency through it, and they got a really high-tech camera that can take a photograph or a video of what's happening on the surface of the water. It creates a perfect 7-pointed star. And so this was really important to me, because what I was led to understand is the 7-pointed star is also the world map of Babylon, that sits in a museum for real. Today, it's a 7-pointed star. We can get into this hybrid bloodline comes in through the Native American First Nation people, and look at the Cherokee. Their symbol for their tribe is a 7-pointed star. So what had happened was,
very interesting,
when I seen that 7-pointed star in the Ia Inki crop circle, I'm like, what you need to know is, because of that crop circle being so important to me, I created one of those energy discs with that image. And then I went on to another project where I made a disc out of every note of the musical scale. Because there's a lot of other notes than A, right? There's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Then it rotates back to A for the octave. And every frequency has a different pointed star. So one's a 5-pointed star, one's a 6-pointed star, the Merkaba. You know,
Oh
the
my
A
goodness.
the A
Wow.
note makes, so I started to be able to look at crop circles and go, well, that's the D note. You know, oh, that's the F. You know, but I,
That Sherry Edwards does that with voice analysis, identifies different frequencies within the voice
I
that
you'll have to
are,
send me a link to her. That's right up my alley.
oh wow,
Um,
yeah.
so what happened was I couldn't figure out. I made the Yankee crop circle, which is based off a seven-pointed star. Then I went on to create a seven-disc set of every note of the musical scale, but tuned properly to the A equaling 432. Well, the A disc was the last one I made. And I'm sitting there looking at a seven-pointed star, right? But two and two is not clicking, man. I was like, why does this look so familiar to me? And I couldn't figure it out. And finally, after about 10 minutes of staring at it, I didn't get it. And this voice is like, just let it go, man. It'll come, you know, don't try to hassle it. Just relax. And I put the disc down, I looked over, and I seen that Yankee crop circle with a seven-pointed star. Tears flowed. They did encode it with something only I would be able to decode. And so that was the first. Can you bring that image back up?
Which one?
The
Oh,
one that we're just looking at of the Yankee crop
oh yeah,
circle.
okay.
Because there's something very important with it. And then we can just swipe and go to the previous one. Yeah. Um, okay, see what would be about, I don't know, the 4 o'clock position on that outer petal. There's a circle, right?
Right here.
And see how it looks like star constellations that are in that, and there's like three of them there. And then as you go around, what is three, three, four, 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 or four, five? It's a 7-digit number. When you put that in to Google and search it, it's actually a gene in our human DNA that is called a universal stress protein, and it regulates on how the human body handles outside stressors like solar radiation and viruses. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, it
So
is.
what they're telling me is, you know, this technology revitalizes dead municipal tap water, brings in energy from another dimension. Because I asked the biophysicist, because I got all the photography. They tested California municipal tap water, they tested Canadian spring water, and they did Nevian bottled water. And like I said, the tap water was in the worst shape, so it had the biggest effect. So imagine, man, I should have sent you the image. It looks like a little tiny pinprick of light in the before, and it looks like a supernova went off in the after photo.
Oh, really? Wow.
So I said,
I'd like
well,
to
wait
see
a
that.
minute. This is some form of unlimited free energy. Where is this extra energy coming from? I asked her, is it our sun? Is it the planet's electromagnetic fields, the tectonic plates? And she said, no, it's coming from a higher dimension. And I'm like, what? You know, first of all, I've never had to ask myself, what does it mean to be drinking water that has energy from a higher dimensional state in it? Uh, well, I think it will unlock your DNA and make you more prepared for this time that we're in of increased solar activity. We're going through the highest level of solar activity that we've ever seen. But that's all encoded in this one crop circle that started off the whole thing.
And
But,
you know, we need a lot of extra water, and being pure is really, really important.
well, imagine now Elon Musk and SpaceX is taking the cymatic image that was created from this technology that I have incorporated and encoded into quartz crystal glass, and then it gets a copper wrap. That's the technology. But the magic is in the image itself. It's truly the first scientific proof of holographic reality
Oh,
and
wow. Is
quantum
that,
entanglement, because every bit of it contains all of it in a holographic reality. So this is a real two-dimensional image of the frequency of water. The image has the same attribute as if though you were in the frequency itself. It's pretty mind-blowing. And quantum entanglement I was told how to do a ancient water blessing ceremony by Chief Golden Light Eagle, who he's the spiritual leader and chief of the Dakota. He's been on Ancient Aliens many times. And so what had happened was the year previous to this crop circle showing up, and I should have, well, it wouldn't have mattered anyhow, but every one of these, I want the audience to know this. I just had a team working for me, and I had them, they said, what crop circles do you want us to extract the graphic out of the crop circle? So obviously this was the first one, but I found out in the exact same, by the way, it should be of no doubt that for the first time, the author, the artist of this crop circle encoded their signature. It says Ia Inki, which aren't names, by the way. We can get into that. Ia means grandfather in ancient Native American First Nation.
Oh, it does. I didn't know that.
Yes. And Inki means, N means Lord or ambassador, and Kai means earth. And so N Kai, or Inki, is Lord or ambassador of the earth. And then my brother Enlil, because I've met him now, was Chief Golden Light Eagle, and we became very close in this this timeline. He was known as N, which is Lord or Ambassador, and Lil is Sky. So he was Lord of the Sky, and I was Lord of the Earth. But interestingly enough, when I was given my Native American First Nation spiritual name, it's Rainbow Warrior Eagle, and they returned Saint Michael or Archangel yes. Archangel Michael.
Arc or arch? You know?
Well, it's arc, because we can get into that. There's a very
I
specific
didn't know
arc.
which way it was. Yeah.
Well, we can get into that because it's very important, and it's going to be communicated through these crop circles. But he said Ia wasn't your name. One of my previous incarnations, I was known as the Peacemaker, but that's what the Iroquois called me. They wouldn't say my real name. It's Michael. So now it's come full circle. I can look someone in the eye too and go, you know what? My name's Michael. I'm cool with Archangel Mike, though. So what happened was I found out in the exact same field this showed up. Can you swipe to the right and go to the previous one now?
Yes. Hang on, I just got to go back over here.
This crop circle showed up in the exact same field as this one. And from this point forward, too, because we'll go, nope, other way.
Wait a minute. I didn't know if I'd have to. I think what I have to do is I have to go out and come back in with the share to get a different one. So I'm going to stop sharing this one. And I'll share again. First,
you know what? I'm so proud of this, too, because I've made energy discs out of every one of these crop circles, and I've done that with rainbow holographic printed images of that. So as you look at it, every angle you're going to get a different color of the rainbow. And I took all those images and put them, I got a journal that is the rainbow on the front, and I have all the images in it so I could use it, and it's packed away in the garage right now.
Let me see if this is the one you want.
It'd be the top left on those ones that you just seen.
Did it go to a different one?
I can't. There is.
No, it went to the
Oh, that's
same
it.
one.
That's it right there.
Oh, that's it? Oh, good.
So now you see the one we were just at is a 7-petaled star.
7, yeah.
And every one after that is all 7. But look at this. That's a 6-petaled. And it's the Merkaba, right? It's the 6-petaled forms the Star of David, or, what's called the Merkaba shape. But you see those circles that have dots inside of it?
Yes.
That's ASCII binary code 2, and it decodes to E equals MC squared. So I was like, well, wait a
Really?
minute. Yes. So I knew that they use crop circles multidimensionally, meaning they'll show you one piece of the puzzle one year, and in the exact same year, I mean, the next year, they'll put another crop circle that expands on that bed of information. So I was like, what the hell does 432, because of the 7-pointed star, and even scientifically, it creates the 7-pointed star in a physical medium like water. What does that have to do with E equals MC squared? And what I found out is E equals MC squared is only the particle part of the equation. Now our science knows everything is both particle and wave, both simultaneously. E equals MC squared. E is energy, M is mass, and C is the speed of light squared. M is mass, mass is particle. So where's the wave component? What I found out is the 7-pointed star, 432 squared, or 432 times 432 equals C, or the speed of light, within 1% accuracy. It's the only frequency that is truly a harmonic of light. It's the only frequency that plugs into E equals MC squared. So when you run this equation backwards, it's 432 base frequencies squared becomes C squared times mass equals energy. And so these two became the first two cornerstones of this communication. But now, mind you, A.R. Borden, the head of the reverse engineering, said, you're going to learn in your course of study all about cosmic harmonious frequencies, and to create physical matter, mass, you need specific frequencies. We now know it's 432. And he said, more than likely, you're going to learn in this course of study that you've been brought into with us. But mind you, at that time, I was getting a lot of information from the NSA, but I didn't correlate that these crop circles that I was in communication with was a part of that communication.
Uh-huh. Well,
now
that's understandable.
Yeah, I mean, why would you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But they said, he said, more than likely in this course of study you're being brought into, you're going to learn the true Pythagorean scale, Pythagoras. And all that means is A equals 432, not 440. 440, yeah. If you put it through the same cymatic technology, it doesn't do anything. It looks like a puddle. There's no geometry. There's no structure. There's no snakes like snowflake. Formation, which fits into Dr. Emoto as well. It shows you thought forms. Thought forms of fear and doubt and nonsense don't have any geometry. So anyhow, this was going backwards. This is actually the first. This was 2010. Then can you swipe back? Just swipe to the left now. You should be able to go back to the one we were at, hopefully.
Let's see what happens.
Come on. Yeah.
Did it work? Oh, good.
Yes. Now, go on to the next one. I think this was 2015. Some of these get a little hazy. I don't think the years actually even matter. But now remember, I asked them to encode the name Ia Inki into a crop circle. Every crop circle from here forth has a different way of encoding Ia Inki. You see that, what looks like an eclipse, moon, crescent symbol? Behind that's Inki's symbol back in Sumer. Every time you'd see a depiction of Inki, there would be that crescent moon symbol above his shoulder. And all this, I didn't know it when it happened, but now I understand what they're doing. So this was a big confirmation just to see if I'm picking up what they're putting down, so to speak. So I was like, wow, that's a beautiful crop circle. So moving forward, let's go to the next one. All right. Now, do you see looks like a little spiral on the outer ring of that 7-pointed star?
Mm-hmm.
There's 14 of them. Those are Mayan calendar Bach tunes. And they're a long count in the Mayan calendar, the longest. Each one of those symbols is 144,000 days long. Well, that's interesting, ain't it? That number
Wow.
sounds awfully
Yeah.
familiar.
Gee, I heard that
Um,
number before many times.
but here's the deal: is each Baktun is a time slice within the precessional cycle. People thought that the Mayan calendar ended because there's no 14th Baktun. It's no 14th Baktun because it's truly the first Baktun of the age of Aquarius.
Ah,
And it's not the end, it's a new beginning. And so I'm like, well, wait a minute, there's 14 Baktun symbols in this crop circle. So this is showing you the true place in the cosmic calendar that we enter the age of Aquarius. And by
and
the way,
isn't Aquarius the water bearer?
yes,
Ah,
yes,
there we
that's
go.
awesome. You know that. So what had happened was I thought, well, if each one is 100, first of all, in the past, I was watching the movie 2012, and man, this is such a complicated subject matter, but I got to tell you, I realized every frequency that is 432 based is resolves to 9, meaning 4 plus 3 plus 2 equals 9. To find any frequencies lower octave, you just divide by 2. So 432 divided by 2 is 216. 2 plus 1 plus 6 is 9. It's lower octave, 108, 9. Oh, that's nice. I'm
Funny how that
sitting in
works.
my living room. Hopefully they'll kill that here in a minute. So I already knew all 432 based math and physics resolve to 9. 108's interesting, isn't it? Because all how freaking annoying.
It's
All
amazing.
thank you. Um all 108 Tibetan monks have 108 prayer beads on their bracelets.
Wow.
They'll recite and chant 108 times. So what do they know, right? They know something. And
Frequency. Yeah.
yes. So and when I work with NASA, the guy told me, he said, we found that the only time extra photonic light energy is brought through a higher dimensional state to our realm is when the frequency resolves to 9. He brought up 528. He said, people ask me about 528 all the time. He said, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't resolve to 9. I thought that's interesting.
I thought that
But
was a love frequency.
that's what humans think.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Well, we have been
doesn't,
lied to about everything, so
yeah. But if someone's paying attention to frequency, God bless. But somehow it is related because I'll tell you what happened is Chief Cole and White Eagle. I asked them, are Native American First Nation flutes tuned to 432? He said most are, but some are 444. And he said that's the Arcturian frequency, and it's silver. He said we are 432, and it's gold. He said that's why I'm Chief Golden White Eagle. And he said, what your job is to find out the relationship of 432 to 444 to 528. And I thought, okay, thank you. And I walked away going, well, how the hell am I going to do that? The answer came to me, actually. And it is the Anunnaki gave us this idea of multiplying, dividing whole units by, well, if this gets back to the age of Aquarius, by the way, it's just, I'll get back. It's all connected.
you're fine. That's good. Interesting.
That all frequencies that resolve to 9 are 432 based frequencies. They gave us this idea of multiplying and dividing whole units by 12. And like 12 inches in a foot, 12 hours in a day, 12 apostles, 12 days of Christmas, 12, 12, 12, 12. It just goes on and on if you look at the list. So it occurred to me, what happens when you take whole numbers that are perfect, no remainder, just number? What I found out is 36 times 12 equals 432. But interestingly, 3 and
Ah,
6 is 9. 369 is related to 432. But so 36 times 12, 432. Then 37 times 12 is 444. And then 44 times 12 is 528. So I think that it's a code to break into different dimensional levels where all 432 based frequencies are 3D, are reality related, whereas these other frequencies are going to start tapping in higher dimensional realms. So what I'm saying is within 9 digits, 36 to 44, is that 9? I think so. Encodes these three cosmic harmonious frequencies, being 432, 444, and 528. But why this is all important is, first of all, they gave us the Anunnaki right out of the gate back in Sumer, gave us full functioning culture. And this has been talked about. Maybe some people know it, but laws of governance, math, how we keep time. Well, let's talk about that. How many seconds is in 12 hours? It's 43,200. It's
oh
432. So it's like they've been,
my God. Wow.
it's amazing, isn't it? And that
Yeah.
number two, I became very good friends with Graham Hancock. And he said, that same number, if you multiply the height and the width of the Great Pyramid in Giza, you get
Uh-huh.
the true dimensions of planet Earth. And so we can get into
Wow.
all this because these numbers are encoded into all ancient, because the 432 base frequencies are also precessional cycle numbers. Look what happens when you take 25,920. That's one, the Anunnaki called it the Great Year. That's the longest time slice that we use, is one complete precessional cycle. It's 25,920 years long. But then if you divide it by for the most part, the smallest time slice that we use is 60, like 60 seconds in a minute, so on and so forth. Take 25,920 and divide it by 60, it's 432. So, like Graham Hancock and all of the archaeologists on the planet, they know all of these ancient cultures were encoding.
432.
Well, they thought it was precessional cycle numbers and didn't know
Oh,
why that it was so important to these ancient cultures to be incorporating these numbers into their structures, whether it's Angkor Wat or, Newark Earthworks. Because, for instance, when you get into the mound builders, which is my bloodline, I'm Seneca of the Iroquois. And like when you go to Newark Earthworks, one wall will be 2,160 miles long. Another wall will be 1,080. That's 108 and 216. Those are octaves of 432 built in. All of these ancient structures are incorporating precessional cycle numbers, but to understand it, it's frequency related. None of them are musicians. I'm a musician. So I'm bringing to the table, well, guess what, man?
okay.
This is the keys to cosmic harmonious frequencies, because I could tell you the biophysicist from NASA said apparently Michael has invented a cosmic energy collector and a QI collector. I'm like, well, first of all, what the hell is a cosmic energy collector? I've never heard of that. I'm
Oh,
like, you know what it is? It's Nikola Tesla's own words for his 369 technology. And QI is just another spelling of chi, CHI. QI is prana or life force or
oh, okay.
Holy Spirit. So I'm like, wow, I invented a Holy Spirit collector. Whatever, right? But so when I was getting back to the age of Aquarius, I'm watching the movie 2012, and it caused me to have like cellular memory
Oh, really?
panic attack, because whoever made that movie studied the Sumerian clay tablets and knew exactly what happens during a pulse shift. And it made me have recall of the last pulse shift.
Are you
27,000.
aware of what Richard Miller is saying? That
No.
Carrie Cassidy has interviewed him, and she has a recent update with him.
Mhm.
He's quite somebody to interview. More power to her. Anyway, he's a genius,
Mhm.
and he is saying, based on his mathematical calculations, and I understand our universe is all math, but anyway, that in March 2024, just this next coming spring, there's a strong possibility of a Carrington event.
Of a what?
It's called a Carrington event, and it's the result of plates shifting, and it causes major land changes
Hmm.
on the planet.
I can tell you it's not going to happen because
Yay! That's what I wanted to hear you say.
yeah, we
because
didn't
you would
come
have
this far to
connections.
only come this far.
Yeah.
And as actually anew, we can get into some things that are misconceptions of ancient Anunnaki, the telling of it. But
Yes, I've heard
after
so many different stories. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but
no, it's all good.
but I've heard so many different stories. I heard
Well,
well,
you're talking to a guy that's actually met them. Ask them if they've actually met them and got a course of study, even from the inside of reverse engineering technology transfer programs that's working with them. That's what I'm sharing with the world.
now when you met them, were they like another man, or woman,
Both.
like in
Actually, I found out how they can, from what I understand from the NSA, is they have so much chi and prana within their vessel that they're not shapeshifters, but they can make you see what they want you to
to
see.
see.
And it's a decree within the Anunnaki themselves that no human is allowed to see their true face. So in my presence, there was a guy in front of me and he was faceless. It's a little disconcerting. Matter of fact, my first words were to him was, "Can I see your true faces?" Because it looked like their face was just in shadow. And
I know somebody who describes something exactly what you're describing.
oh, wow. Well, I heard if you have met the Anunnaki and a human, this is them
Wasn't me.
communicating through a Nephilim avatar, a human. In the Bible, the Nephilim was the hybrid race of the Elohim, which is another word for Anunnaki. By the way, Anunnaki is our word for them. We call their planet Nibiru, which means the planet of crossing. Anunnaki means those from heaven that came to earth. And some people say, well, the Anunnaki is a blanket term, that there's a lot of races under it. It could be because it means those from heaven that come to earth. But that is not what the race we're calling my people. Their planet, they call it the Saamai. And the people of the Saamai are known as the Saami, ancient Hebrew, ancient Sumerian. And the people of the Saami are Saami. And then that word translated to the Western culture is Sam. So when you're working in the technology transfer programs, if they refer to the Anunnaki, they don't say Anunnaki. They say, the Sam. But anyhow,
Interesting.
yeah, Uncle Sam, right?
Yeah, I know. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
But so getting back to 2012, all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, it doesn't resolve to a 9. It cannot be the end of the Mayan calendar because it's not how they kept time. All of their timekeeping is based on factor 9 based math and physics, 432 based math and physics. And I thought, well, because 2012 resolves to a 5. 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 2 is 5. So I just went forward in time until I got to 2016. And I'm like, bing, 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 ding, 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 it's 2016 is the true ending of the Mayan calendar. Now, getting back to this crop circle, there's 14 Baktun Mayan calendar long count symbols. So I thought, well, what happens if you take 144,000, which is how many days long each one of those is, and you just multiply it by 14? It's 20160000000000. 2016. So it's confirmation that I'm on the right track, that we entered the age of Aquarius in December 21st, 2016, not that long ago. But when I met the
Oh,
Anunnaki,
yeah.
they said their whole succession of kingship, which have been given the throne. Isn't that fascinating? It's not what people think, though. But anyhow, the whole succession of kingship and how they relate to humanity is based on the precessional cycle. And that's why our entry into the age of Aquarius was so prophesied in such of an importance to our past cultures, because they said the very second that we entered the age of Aquarius, we would have either passed the test and started to become more friendly monsters, which we barely made it, by the way. Um, uh, we didn't do real well, but hey, all that matters.
Gee,
You
why
know
is
what they
that not
told me?
hard to believe?
They said you don't want the grandmothers, because the grandmothers are truly the ones that have the highest level of authority within their culture. Same thing with Native American Indians. The grandmothers are it. And when they said the bus arrived late but still on time,
Yeah.
we can get into this, but
Well, I've got a question based on that. Since
mhm.
you're in communication with them now, from everything that I've heard or known or read about the Anunnakis, they're the ones that enslaved us.
Yeah,
Humanity.
but that's bullshit. Well, it's not bullshit. Part of the family didn't look favorably upon mankind because Enlil was known as Yahweh in the Bible, and we just went through a
And he
dark
was
age.
pretty mean.
Well, I now we
Or
came
seemed like
together
it.
in this lifetime, and I can understand his viewpoint. Imagine if the person right under him that was in charge of this dark age we just went through is the only person that had his ear, and he was responsible for showing the king mankind's worst behavior, how we always misused our power over ourselves and others, weren't good caretakers, and we would always give our energy away to illusionary outside sources. And they're right, you know? But my point was, how about, judging us when we've been in a state of fight or flight in an economic slavery system? To keep us enslaved is not fair. And
No,
if you let us
I'm glad
show
you
what
said
we're
that.
truly capable of, I think you'll be amazed. But that side of the family, um, people think the Anunnaki are behind all the world's secret societies and skull and bones. But the oldest Nephilim bloodline comes through the Native American First Nations. That's me, Inky. Inky created the genetic work to even create Homo sapien. And it's a blessing because people are like, well, he did it to enslave us. I'm like, no, from the Palladian side, we wouldn't even existed right now because of the last pole shift 27,000 years ago. If this experiment hadn't been put into place to help us evolve at a much quicker rate, and we can get into that, we wouldn't have made it. So what I'm saying is, yes, Marduk of the Anunnaki, known as Ra in Egypt, sits at the top of that Illuminati pyramid, and his spiritual role is to reflect back a negative polarity. Meaning, if you go before a multidimensional being with a lot of garbage and fear and doubt and nonsense in your belief system, and you come before a multidimensional being whose job it is to make you experience your own mental thought forms, because they understand thoughts have an electromagnetic reality, energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It needs to be transmuted into its higher octave. So the question becomes, and no one's asked the question, well, how do you transmute a negative thought form? How do you transmute a lower negative based thought form that's filled with fear and doubt? Well, you live it. It comes up into your own personal reality. Hopefully, you'll choose love over fear. That's the only way to transmute that energy into its higher octave. So that side of the family's job is if you are a human that has a lot of garbage, they'll dangle dark carrots in front of you to see if you'll take the bait. because no one that will give their energy away to illusionary outside sources is ready to go through the proverbial stargate into higher realms. So their job is to make sure no one gets through. And how do they make sure no one gets through? Is they'll see if they can get you to give your energy away. And it's usually done through a blood sacrifice ceremony. Um, uh, and when I refused to participate because I was invited to an ancient ceremony and it had blood sacrifice ceremony elements of it, and I said, no, I will not do this. I don't. And then Enlil Yahweh said, uh, Spirit is so glad that you would not enter their circle, because Spirit looks at anybody who participates in these flesh and blood sacrifice ceremonies as prostitutes. And he pointed out there to him. And he said this whole ceremony, they call it Heyoka, which means backwards, which means they're looking for the ones that won't go along with the mass unconsciousness. They won't follow the crowd up the crooked steps, and they won't do something that offends their soul. Because if what's happening there, I don't even want to get into it, but I was made to bear witness, and it sickened me. And if that doesn't offend your soul, man, you're not ready for higher realms. So yeah, there's a part of the family, that spiritual job it is to go back to the king and go, look, these beings always give their energy away to illusionary outside sources. They destroy this planet, they destroy the water, they destroy. But the other side of the family is, once the veil dropped, he said, Michael, I work with the 7 Lords of Light and the 7 Lords of Darkness. That's in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, by the way. The 7 Lords is the 7th tablet in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. He said, I'm the only one who sits directly in the middle of this council, and I'm the only one who holds a seat on both sides, both light and dark. And so, yeah, if you go before Yahweh with a lot of garbage and fear and doubt, he'll just fold his arms and sit back and watch it all unfold. But if you take your energy back and do not allow the dark to entice you or to dangle dark carrots, and you don't take it, he'll be the first to congratulate you if you take your power back, your I am back. So it's not what people think, but the inky side, and he told me the 7 Lords of Light. Let me back up. If the 7 Lords of Darkness, spiritual job, he said, is self-inflicted suffering through your own free will, they can't have any dominion over you unless you open the door and let them in the back door and you say, come on in. If you say no, then you've enacted your own spiritual free will and they cannot touch you. He said, but the light is going to see what kind of love and compassion you bring to any suffering that comes your way. Totally the flip side of what the dark's doing. And on that side, I can tell you, if seeing what kind of love and compassion you bring to any suffering that comes your way, I can tell you building walls is not the way. I think you know what I'm talking about. But but they said what I did was, on the day, this is a 4-day ancient ceremony, and on the end of the 2nd day, I prayed for rain to alleviate the suffering of some of my friends that were sundancing for the very first time. I don't know, some people might know what a Sundance is, some people might not, but it doesn't much matter for this. You're being vetted by the council, 7 Lords of Light, 7 Lords of Darkness. And the Native American Indians, they call them the 7 war chiefs and the 7 peace chiefs. And Chief Yahweh was known to the Cherokee and the Iroquois long before the Bible, first testament of the Bible, yes. And Chief Yahweh was said to be the only person that sat between these two councils of war and peace chiefs, and he's the only one who held a seat on both sides. I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, man, this is exactly what Chief Golden Light Eagle told me, and he was the Sundance chief. So the next time me and him were in the same vehicle together. I physically asked them, I looked them in the eye, said, this is going to be awkward, but Spirit has led me to understand that you are Yahweh, Enlil, my brother. He said, yes, I've done some pretty messed up things. And I didn't even know what to say. I said, well, haven't we all? And he said, and this isn't the first time we've met, Michael. He knows me as Maitreya, by the way. Another story. That's a Tibetan word of a Bodhisattva of my incarnations there. But anyhow, he said, this isn't the first time we met. But the last incarnation and the last time we met was not pleasant. But I understand now you were only showing me my own darkness. So Yahweh himself has had a change of heart. And the throne has been passed on and it's been given to me, but it's not a throne as in dictatorship or anything. It's that his viewpoint of mankind after 7,000 years of just being shown mankind's worst case behavior. I went before the council and I chose not to participate. And not only that, he said, what you did, because I prayed for rain because my friends were suffering in the heat. And I out loud, and he said, the person that prays for rain shuts down the system. And because, first of all, I will tell you, that night, me and some friends went out to the Sundance grounds, and way off in the distance in Iowa, we could see it was totally clear night, not a cloud in the sky, but way off, if you held like a quarter up to the horizon, there was a storm that looked like something from a Hollywood movie. And that was like the diameter of it. And it had more lightning and electricity in it than I've ever seen in my life. We're sitting there looking at it, and I'm like, dude, it looks like it's coming this way, man. If it doesn't dissipate, it looks like it's heading this way. But as slow as it was going, it would have taken 2 or 3 hours. And this is like 2 o'clock in the morning. So we went to bed. Sure enough, that storm pulled over the Sundance grounds where these blood sacrifice ceremonies were happening, and let the most unbelievable downpour of divine rain that cleansed all of that energy out of the air, out of the atmosphere. And it was mind-blowing. And I got out and I was dancing in it, because at these ceremonies, you're not even allowed to shower. And I needed a shower. So the rain just felt blessed, and there was that Illuminati dark funk energy hanging in the air those first 2 days of the energy of blood sacrifice ceremony and giving your energy away to illusionary outside sources.
Are these animal sacrifices, the blood sacrifices, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes, and the people get pierced through the chest. The women get it through. Okay. But here's how deep it went. Some of the bigger guys get it through the back, and then they get attached to a whole train of buffalo skulls, like 7 of them. And then they pull that around the circle, and you can see the flesh pulling on their back until they rip free. And Chief could tell it was really bothering me what I was witnessing. Yeah, he looked at me and he said, Michael, there's a million ways to give your energy away to illusionary outside sources. There's a million ways to pull those buffalo skulls behind oneself. That's only one. What a profound lesson that was. Because when I got home, I really started to look at my life of ways I was giving my energy away to illusionary outside sources. It's not that extreme, but man, if my girlfriend said, hey, you look fat today, and I allowed that to dim my shine for a week, I'm giving my energy away to an illusionary outside source. If your mom told you that you'd never be any good and you believed it and your life sucks, you've given your energy away. There is a million ways, like he's told me. But anyhow, what was interesting with this is the next morning, instead of 100 degrees and just being sweltering heat, like I was just trying to find a tree to be under to get a little relief from the heat. Instead of 100 degrees, it was like 80 degrees. And it felt like you're on a tropical island and that moisture held in the air. And it felt beautiful. And It hung the whole day, by the way. It was just totally different vibe after the rain came. I keep thinking of that Fleetwood Mac song, "After the rain washes you clean, you will know." You will know. And Chief came out that morning, and part of the Illuminati mind control, because he told me, Michael, there's mind control going on here. He said, the dark is controlling the rhythmic patterns and their whistle blowing and everything to bring in altered states of consciousness where they're more susceptible to suggestion. And
that's where I have a problem with the concept of humanity being so terrible. They've had technology, software. I've seen the patents, things used against them that affect their behavior. So
it
how
still
is that fair?
can't do it. Like, it didn't affect me. You know what I mean? It's like you have to have
It didn't affect me
the
either.
will to stand up against the mass unconsciousness. The mass unconsciousness is going to want to get you to follow the crowd up the crooked steps. And there is a whirlpool of energy in each, like government has a whirlpool, religion has a whirlpool.
Oh,
He
yeah.
said, Michael, us elders had to learn the same thing you're learning, to stand sovereign, to become sovereign integral,
Free. Yeah.
to not be swayed by the mass unconsciousness. And
Yeah. Look
it's
what
a
just
tough
happened with the program that,
it's a tough lesson, but there's no one to blame but someone's self for picking the dark carrot. And but so what happened was, the next morning, now mind you, he's the only one who has a seat on both light and dark. And the dark have them brainwashed to never pray for rain. You want to suffer as much as possible. So he came out that morning and he's really pissed off. And he went to every person there within the dark circle. He pointed to him. He's like, "Did you pray for rain?" "No, Chief, I didn't pray for rain." He went to the next person. "Did you pray for rain?" "No, Chief, I didn't pray for rain." Finally, he got all the way around the circle, and now him and I locked eyes. I raised my hand. I said, "Chief, I prayed for rain. I was out dancing in it. Were you?" He goes, "Michael prayed for rain." So that's when the veil dropped. And afterwards, he said, what you did is the person that prays for rain, you get a free pass past the council. By the way, man, this is the exact same vetting that King Solomon went through. Once you're deemed a clean vessel, they call it rainbow, by the way, because they told me you are the rainbow we've been waiting for, that every chakra in the human body emits light, but only when they're clean, balanced, and spinning freely, from red in the root to purple in the crown, and all the other colors of the chakras. They said, to those of us that have the gift of sight, you've become the whirling rainbow. And so to them, becoming rainbow, the Tibetans have the exact same understanding. They call it obtaining the rainbow body. It all just means doing your spiritual homework and cleansing your own energy centers and becoming rainbow. Shine. And the Rainbow Bridge, same thing, breaking the 7 seals. It's the 7 chakras.
It would be so amazing if children were taught some of these things, right?
That's what I'm here to teach. I am here because that's what us light side Anunnaki are here to teach, is let's create a world of rainbows. Can you imagine if none of us were giving our energy away to illusionary outside sources, and we didn't choose fear and doubt and manifest ugly things? It would be paradise here. And
yes.
So there is and I love the idea of we're here to create rainbows, because becoming rainbow has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with what sex you are, what color you are. And everyone's going to have a different walk, man. Everyone's going to have their own journey to cleanse their own chakras. Some person might need the root chakra cleansed, and they might be having a lot of problems with abundance and keeping a roof over their head. Someone might have a throat chakra issue going on, and they have a problem speaking their truth or whatever. So there is no one way to become rainbow, and it might be a chord of those different chakras. Some people might need the crown, and I don't know, the heart chakras
Our
work
chakras
on.
closed a lot. Yeah.
So I think it's a great idea, but imagine uh, a new teaching method of biofeedback and visualization. And there's we've not been taught, if you're having trial and tribulation in your life, what chakra is that illuminating for you? Like if you are having problems with abundance and keeping a roof over your head, we need to know, well, that's a root chakra. And then what can we do? What color is the root? It's red. So in visualization, to use red, use singing bowls that are tuned to 432. But have you ever heard of heart math?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Heart math is actually an offshoot of this NSA, reverse engineering remote viewers group. They're the ones that started heart math, because they found the heart had a much larger electromagnetic field that expanded around 6 foot, where the brain is right around the head.
Much smaller. Yeah.
Yeah, so they started heart math. So when I was brought into the fold, I was getting a lot of the research results from heart math, and no one knows this, you know.
Mhm.
But using heart math in the future, imagine that the world is given the technology to pinpoint what chakra is being illuminated that needs cleansing, and then given the tools to cleanse it with biofeedback mechanisms from heart math to be able to
That'd be
see.
awesome. Yeah.
That's what we're working on right now.
Mhm.
Um,
I think 432 is a healing frequency. Would you agree with that?
absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Because think of this. Dr. Emoto showed that water is listening to human thought form,
Yeah.
and thought forms of lower vibration do not create any geometry or snowflake,
Mhm.
sacred geometry within it. It looks like a puddle. So if you have municipal tap water that's in a closed system and it's been absorbing all the negative energy from everyone within that closed loop system, we keep drinking water that is tainted with very bad energy. But
Yes.
now, if you take that exact same water and put it on one of my 432 energy discs and look at the NASA photograph, now all of a sudden it looks like a supernova. It's regained its shine.
Can you
Doesn't that
taste the
mean
difference?
not as much in the taste? You can almost tell more in the consistency or like the thickness. It turns water into the actual substance of it seems more like milk. It's,
Really?
I lived in Florida, and we had Fountain of Youth water in our home, and it came up from 150 feet below the surface, and it was it pissed me off actually, because when I started drinking that water, I'm like, man, we're not drinking real water. It's so thick and delicious and good. So it does make it sweeter and taste better, but I can tell a change in the consistency. And not only that, when you put a glass of municipal tap water, and it only takes 7 seconds to bring back the energy.
That fast?
But from that point forward, the biophysicist from NASA said the energy grows exponentially the longer you leave the water. And they said they've never seen this in any water. They said there's a lot of ways to restructure water. You can spin it, you can vortex it, you can put it through magnetic fields. You can have actually like Tibetan monks or faith healers just, give it a blessing and it will heal it. But in all of those instances, he said the periphery of the light pattern of the photonic light energy within the water, yeah, it gets brighter and the energy returns, but the periphery of the light pattern gets larger and more diffuse. They said with my technology, for the first time ever, it's focusing it into a laser beam of energy. She said, the only way I can explain this to you is if you go to burn a leaf and you got a magnifying glass and you got the light on the leaf. As you raise that magnifying glass up, the light pattern gets smaller and smaller,
Yeah.
but it has more and more energy. She said that's what my technology is doing to water, and it's never been seen in any water studies ever done. And so it's pretty much a miracle. And now getting back to the fact that now it's going to the moon by Elon Musk, and it's going to be blessing this planet and radiating down for the next 10 billion years. And she said anything under its field, it grows exponentially. And as Dr. Emoto showed, water has memory, meaning
Yes.
if you take water and you restructure one glass of water with this disc, people can buy these discs, by the way. I've released it to the world, and my website is www.michaelleehill.net. And I've tried to keep everything very
And
affordable.
it's in the description. It's
Cool.
in the description.
The
Yeah.
grandmothers were most excited about this. This is the 432 image from the frequency that I hired scientists to image my guitar that I recorded in my guitar studio, but tuned properly. And they freaked out, by the way. They said, we've used this technology to image everything known to mankind, from dolphin noises, so we can communicate with dolphins, because you can see what all the vocalizations, what geometry. They said, but we've never seen this kind of complexity or dimensionality in anything that we've ever seen. And they said that this middle part, let me see if I can zoom in, around that middle toroid
Yeah, I see that.
is,
Yeah.
is a Fibonacci spiral. Let me
Wow.
see if I can get, and a golden ratio. That's the first time ever that a vector equilibrium, toroidal physics, this isn't computer generated. That's Mother Nature. That's water. But around it is all the 5 platonic solids of sacred geometry is around this. So the grandmother, she said, this is the most important thing to humanity right now, because this is double-sided, by the way. And
Oh, sorry, you got it again.
this is one of my favorite things, because I released this, they'll last forever, for $40. Well, guess what, man? Our body is all water, 70 to 90% water.
Exactly.
So it's restructuring all the water and bringing in extra chi or prana or life force into your own physical body just by wearing it. Nothing to do, just wear it. But guess what, man? She's like, it's also transmitting out into its environment. So wherever this is going on the planet, it's raising the frequency of its environment as well. But have you ever heard of anything called sympathetic resonance?
Yes, I've heard of it.
Sympathetic resonance is nothing but science of, if I got 2 acoustic guitars in this room and they're both tuned to that A note equaling 432, then you pluck one A string, the other string will start vibrating. It's not even been plucked. So what
I didn't know
happens
that.
now that Elon Musk is taking this image to the moon, and it should activate the whole freaking grid, because these have now gone out all over the planet, especially now that
I
I've
want
been,
one.
well, you know what? Because
I
you
want
are
to
who
try to
you
get
are, I will send you one for free because you're awesome. But like I said, for
Oh,
anyone that
thank
wants
you.
one, I've made them very cheap. They're $40 on my website. It's made out of stainless steel. It's got a beautiful epoxy coating, and it lasts forever. I never take it off. I bathe in it, and it never leaves my neck until I meet someone that I feel they need it more than I do. Then I'll take it right off my neck and gift it to them. Then I'll start wearing another one.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Are you able to read people's energy?
no,
Pretty
I'm
much. Oh.
very focused in this 3D world. I wish I could,
Uh-huh.
because like the grandmother said, those of us that have the gift of sight, you become the whirling rainbow. To me, I can't see energy like that. I can't see auras.
I don't either.
I wish I could.
Me too.
I know it's a real thing, but that's not my gift. My gift is music. Music has always been my thing. And I don't know, have you ever heard of the musician Steve Vai?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did. In fact, I looked him up that one day because I saw you mentioned him. Yeah.
Yeah, I won the Steve Vai Ibanez Guitar Challenge, which he's a
Wow.
Grammy Award winning musician. Just to he's in the movie Crossroads, right? With Ralph Macchio. Remember, like the Crossroads where Ralph has to go up against the devil's guitar player? That's Steve Vai. in the
Oh,
film.
wow. Okay.
So I couldn't believe when I won the contest. I was like, I felt like I was being flown. Actually, I was really into Interview with the Vampire. And I don't know if you're familiar, Anne Rice's books, but
No,
the main vampire in the movie, his name is Lestat.
I can't
And
watch those movies.
it's really interesting because there's two vampires and one was a preacher, but his wife died and he couldn't stand the pain of losing his child and his wife. And Lestat tracks him down, goes, "You'll never have to die. I can take that away from you." And he makes the wrong choice and he allows Lestat to turn him into a vampire. But then through the rest of the movie, you have this one who was a preacher and he wonders what he's done and how he's viewed in the eyes of God now. So there's a really cool dichotomy between those two characters. But man, I felt like when I met Steve Vai, I was being flown to meet Lestat because in the later books, he becomes a rock star. You know,
Oh,
he's
really?
in this day and age, he's like, oh, I love this debauchery and sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I can do this. So, um, so I really felt like I was being flown to, but he ended up being the sweetest guy on the planet. The first words to me was, "Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? You know, do you need anything?" I'm like pinching myself. No, man, I'm all right. You know, like what the hell? Felt like I was being punked, you know. But he also gave me one of his guitars. But because of the History Channel, revealing I didn't have normal human blood, the Harvard professor was, "We know you're adopted. So if you can, you should contact your biological parents to see if this is something hereditary, because we don't know what to tell you." So for the first time in my life, I tracked down my birth mother and I met my two half sisters. And that's when I found out that Eric Clapton is my biological father. And that batshit crazy. And
Wow. Yeah,
yeah,
I heard somebody say that. I didn't hear
it's
you say
true.
it,
I
but
know it sounds batshit crazy, but even
no,
Bill
that
Burns of
happens.
the History Channel, you know, he wrote the book UFO Hunters Season 1, the book. So every episode has one chapter in the book.
I,
And he contacted me and said, "Would it be all right if I reveal that we found out Eric Clapton's your father in the book?" Now, mind you, he's a New York Times best-selling author because of The Day After Roswell with Philip Corso. And I'm like, well, yeah, that is, you were right there. I, because of the History Channel shows, the reason I tracked down my birth parents. So that's kind of crazy, you know? How do you like, that
has
was
he been
pretty,
checked?
that was pretty late in my life to find out Eric Clapton was my father.
And well,
And
isn't it interesting though, because you have a talent. You
yes,
have
yes.
musical talent, so you inherited some of that from him. I loved Eric Clapton's music.
Me too. I'll tell you what, earlier in my life, I've played in a gazillion classic rock bands. So obviously we covered Crossroads by Cream and, you know, Eric Clapton songs. So anytime I go to learn a song, I call it turning on my ears. I don't even have a guitar in my lap. I just listen. But in my mind, I'm trying to figure out the song just mentally before I even attempt it on a guitar. I'm listening to Crossroads. Like, there's no way. I'm never going to figure this out. It's just, I don't know what the hell's going on in this song with his guitar parts. But I'm like, well, I'm going to try anyhow. I grabbed my guitar. Within two times through, I had the whole entire song. I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on, but then I found out he's my father.
It
So,
came naturally.
yeah,
What a blessing.
and
What a blessing.
I
Yeah.
do, when I hear him play, I hear a lot of my phrasing and the way I choose notes and I put music together. But that's what, when I was brought into the reverse engineering division, he said, you have music in you, but just not in a way of writing cool Beatles songs. He said that, that's when he got into to create physical matter, you need the knowledge of specific frequencies. But getting into, what I found out, Yahweh is not a name. And it's not YHWH, by the way. It's YHWH. YW. When you look at that, how it's written in ancient Hebrew, the first and third letter in real ancient, you do read from left to right. I know they switched it from right to left further down the path, but at that time, so if the first and third alphabet is the same, it cannot be YHWH. It is YHYW. Those are musical notes. I can tell you what they are. It's la, na, na, na. But every chakra, then you do the same phrase. So I told Chief, I said, I understand now that Yahweh isn't a name or a title. It's the tones of creation that you can create from light and sound, physical reality. And I sang him those notes. Na, 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 na. He said, yes. He said, that's what us chiefs and elders, we will sing those at the beginning of the songs to create medicine in water. And I thought, oh, well, that makes
Wow.
sense. So, but, you know, a lot of people think that, which is true, because, like I said, in the 40s, we were taken out of the tuning standard that aligns us with cosmic harmonious frequencies and taken into 440.
Yeah, they
But
did that on purpose. Yeah.
truly, yeah, but you know what? I'm starting to understand now there was a light component to this. Would you really want people stumbling across the tones of creation accidentally? Probably not. So if they pulled the musical standard out so things aren't tuned properly, even if you stumble across na, 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 na. It's real close to Close Encounters, by the way. That's pretty odd.
Yeah, that was actually.
But no one's going to stumble across it. You're going to have to know your shit and know that those frequencies have to be tuned properly. But I think it opened up a loophole for the dark to go, well, if we're going to change it, we're going to put it at the least harmonious frequency that causes man to go into fight or flight. And they did. But
Yeah,
another good thing, though, I created a blog of everything I had learned from the Anunnaki and my research. And I got contacted by this guy named Gary Light. He said, would you mind if I create a video from your blog, your information? I'll give you full credit. I'll put a video together of it. I said, yeah, please. And thank you, you know? Well, he
yeah,
made
that's
two
a good thing.
versions of that video, one with music and one without. Right now, both of them have over 1.2 million views.
Wow.
It's like people are thirsty. They know truth when they feel it because it resonates.
Yes,
And
it's a vibration.
yes, so I'm proud to be like the grandfather of the 432 movement because I'll tell you what, man, if you're a musician and you tune your acoustic guitar to 432, you'll never go back because there's more information in the signal. There's more, like, the vibration of the guitar, it vibrates your body. It's almost like the intensity knob has been
Mhm.
turned up. I heard
Wow.
the way to understand this, say if I got my acoustic guitar and you have a decibel reader, that's how we measure sound level. And I'm playing my acoustic guitar and I'm tuned to 440. And you're like, okay, you're at 60 dB or decibels. And then I do nothing but tune my A note to 432 and then all the other notes accordingly. Now I play, you'll go, oh my God, you're at 72 dB. Nothing has changed other than where I'm tuned to. There's more information in the signal. So,
Wow.
so what would happen is if we were tuned properly, when you went to the local bar to see your local classic rock band do tunes, you'd walk out with a spiritual healing. On a cellular level, it would bring through more chi and prana and life force. And 440
Just
does,
by being in 432
yeah, or just by listening even to it.
in there
Because that's
listening.
one
Yeah.
thing I dig talking about it, but it's nothing like being in its presence. And so what happens is when musicians tune to 432 and they feel it in their gizzard, you know, and
Mhm.
then, like, for me, if I go to a musician's jam night and they're tuned to 440, I cannot be tuned to 432. it would sound absolutely horrible if I'm in 432 and they're in 440. So I have to retune my instruments to 440 if I want to go play with
Other people.
the other people. And when I do, I'm like, ugh. It's all of a sudden my instrument's dead.
Yeah.
It's like,
Don't feel good anymore.
it doesn't feel good at all, man. It's like it does, like the instrument does not resonate in the same way whatsoever. So I'm here to, the only musician that I know of, Prince, um, he was against social media and he didn't have a Facebook and he didn't have a Twitter. But at one part near the end of his life, he created a Facebook account and a Twitter account. And he said, for the next 8 hours, I'm going to answer every single question that you give me. And at the end of the 8 hours, he only answered one question out of the thousands that came in. And the question was, should we be retuning our musical standard to 432 hertz? And all he said was, yes, the golden standard, and put a link to an article on why we should be tuning to 432. He's the only musician. Now, I've heard some people say, well, Hendrix tuned to 432. It's like, no, he didn't actually. It was because of Woodstock, because of the humidity and the heat. His guitar detuned naturally because he was out in the sun, and he hit 432 anyhow, period. But so I can tell you this. For the first time, I've wrote a song that incorporated what I've learned about cosmic harmonious frequencies. And I have a dear brother from another mother. His name is Dan Reed. And Dan Reed was hand selected by Mick Jagger to open up 60 shows on their Steel Wheels tour for the Rolling Stones. He's that level of cat. He's going to kill me for saying this, but I've met him now. And I've played guitar for him at the last 4 concerts in Cleveland. He stays at my house when he's here. But he's in contact with the Arcturians. And they've given him the keys to multidimensional travel. And we've spoken. I've learned more about the bloodline from him other than anyone else. But himself, he opened for David Bowie, legendary show promoter Bill Graham, who brought Led Zeppelin here, thought Dan was the most talented musician he'd ever heard. And but I got to share the story because it's fascinating. Dan said that he had this illusion in his mind that when you had the kind of fame that the Rolling Stones had and that kind of money, that all your problems went away. He said it was the exact opposite. He said they had more drama and melodrama than anything he'd ever seen. He said it was almost like he climbed to the top of a mountain thinking there was going to be some kind of guru there from the learn from. There's no one. So he dropped off the face of the planet because what happened was simultaneously he got the gig from a magazine to go interview the Dalai Lama. And he said he met love. Here he met someone who went through what most of us can never even imagine. The loss of your country, your people, your own family being slaughtered. And he still radiated nothing but love. So he decided to take all the money he made, which he was a multimillionaire, drop off the face of the planet and move into a Tibetan monastery. And he lived with the monks all through the 90s. And he said the only responsibility they had was to go to the river and they would practice their Tibetan throat singing. Have you ever heard that? It's really bizarre. It's like, I can't do it. But
maybe I did it. Maybe I have heard it. It's very,
very. He said they love doing it in the river because they can really project with the sound of the river and they don't have to worry about how loud they're getting. And they love to sing in the river. And they would go down there to wash their robes. That's the only responsibility they had in life, was to keep your shit clean. So he said they're down there washing their clothes. And he said this one monk came up to him and goes, Dan, I heard a song on the Western radio and I want you to teach it to me. Dan's like, okay, what? And the monk goes, boom, boom, ch, boom, boom, ch, boom, boom, ch. He's like, we will rock you. Yeah, that's it. He said it was the most surreal moment of living with the monks and teaching the monks how to sing "We Will Rock You."
Oh my God, that's
But
hilarious.
anyhow, we became dear friends. I've learned more from him than anyone, and he is like the Arcturian ambassador on the planet. And
That's amazing.
so I wrote this song that's incorporating these new cosmic harmonious frequencies, and I've come up with new tunings for the guitar that pulls notes into. Because think of this, man. Uh, I had been told not only do you need a specific frequency, but you need specific frequencies in combination. So what I
Mhm.
found out from NASA is, like I said, only when the frequency resolves to 9 does it bring through extra photonic light energy from another dimension. So I work through the math of every note tuned properly on a guitar, every string, every fret, and what that accurate frequency is. Every single frequency resolves to 9 if you're tuned properly. No matter where you are on a guitar neck, it's going to bring through extra photonic light energy. So I'm thinking, well, that's
That's fantastic.
fascinating, but how would you ever know what frequency brings through the most amount of photonic light energy?
How do you measure that?
The only way you can measure it is if you're a Tibetan monk and you can feel it. But
Oh,
have you ever
okay.
heard of, I always mess up the name, Carillion?
Kirlian photography.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what NASA uses, but they have a special modified version of it that they can look at the life force within a water. And so they can see how much life force is within water. So that's how they know, only when a frequency resolves to 9. So I thought, how would I ever know what frequencies to use in combination if everything is equaling 9? Well, I cracked the code. There are some frequencies that bring their notes that sit over harmonic vortexes of energy. Those spots along the travel of from octave to octave. By the way, man, I don't want to jump around too much, but I don't want to miss this point. 432, like I said, its lower octaves are 216, then 108, then 54, then 27. But going higher is 864. So that's 432 times 2. And the reason this is important is whoever came up with it's called the imperial system of measurement. You know how the rest of the world went to metric?
Yeah.
But we're in
Yeah.
the
But
system
not.
that has
Yeah.
12 inches in a foot, 12 hours in a day,
Yeah.
um, miles. Well, look at how many miles across the sun is. It's 8,640 miles across. The moon is 2,160 miles across. Those are octaves of 432. We are living in a 432 based physical reality. That's why we get a perfect full
Oh, that's fantastic.
totality eclipse, that when the moon passes in front of the sun, that they're perfectly octaves of one another. So to say that we're living in a 432 base, and since everything is made of light, and
Yeah.
432 squared is the speed of light, it's cracking the code to star knowledge. And what is star knowledge? It's the knowledge of light and sound and how it creates physical reality. And hallelujah, right?
Yeah. Light and sound is how they move those huge
Yes, the boulders.
bricks. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because mainstream science just revealed, they brought it up on Ancient Aliens, that they found that specific frequencies create negative mass. Remember, A.R. Borton told me to create mass, you need specific frequencies. He
Yeah.
didn't say negative, but I found out it is negative mass, dark matter, because a field that's creating a dark matter field creates anti-gravity. So what is happening is, if you came into the field of properly tuned frequency, E equals mc squared matter,
Mhm.
when it enters that field, particles float up instead of down. It
Oh
truly
wow.
is starting to show. But honestly, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I'm the only one. besides Tibetan monks that have cracked the code and knows what frequencies to use that bring forth the most amount, what notes sit on top of harmonic vortexes of energy. The only other person I know that's cracked the code is that guy that made the Coral Castle. You know what I'm talking about, in Florida. That,
Oh yeah, the coral. Oh yeah.
yeah, he knew.
I forgot about that.
He had a device that incorporated, these cosmic harmonious frequencies. So imagine what, the disk and the photonic light energy that's coming through is creating anti-gravity. So what effect does that have on your bloodstream for blood flow and even circulation when your body is experiencing less gravity when you're in the field of 432? Interesting questions.
Interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. Wow.
Or
Well, there's another thing that maybe you understand this. They're talking about the resonance of bells. I was reading some stuff and anyway, they have these, real tall buildings with these from old times. They're not anymore so much. And then they'd have a ball filled with mercury, and somehow that was gathering energy, has something to do with free energy. I didn't really.
Yeah,
I
because
didn't really understand it all.
all of it
I have
leads
to study it
to
more.
it all leads to Nikola Tesla 369 technology, and I've done it, and that's even with NASA's proving of it. The only thing that I need to learn, and I'm going down this rabbit hole, is first of all, NASA's freaked out because Nikola Tesla, the cosmic energy collectors he created were Tesla coils and the Tesla tower, and but this is the first time they've ever seen a cosmic energy collector that's been invented that has no moving parts. It's just quartz crystal with a cymatic image that's holographically entangled quantumly with the frequency, and then it's put into quartz crystal, and then it has a copper wrap that goes around it. So how did Nikola Tesla, how did he plan? Because he said this is the technology that will free mankind from all forms of fossil fuel and oil, and it's not polluting. It doesn't mess up this planet. How did he plan on? Somehow I know he was going to take a Tesla tower, put one in every city. That would blanket the whole city with this energy, and then you could tap off of it, and it's unlimited, it's free, and it's energy. So once I figure this out, because it's got to be out there, I just need to start studying Tesla. But I'm really thinking, what if I take one of my discs and I take a voltmeter and I take the negative and positive probe and I put it to the copper? If I get any type of voltage reading, game over. I've not done it yet.
That would be interesting.
Or I'm thinking maybe it's going to take two discs, and one is the positive, one's the negative. I'm not sure. But then what's it mean for NASA to tell me that the energy grows exponentially, that the longer something sits in the field, the energy grows? So I'm really contemplating what's going on with Elon Musk taking it to the moon. It's going to be there for the next 10 billion years, radiating down on this planet.
It's fascinating. Wow.
Well, you know what the name of my book is? Or it's just really good weed.
Or oh, that's funny. Only the best. Anyway.
But you know what? We've got all through this, but I want to show you something that's really mind-blowing. And it answers some questions that all of mankind has had for a very long time. Can we go to the last crop circle? That's part of that 5.
Okay, let me see if I can find it again.
I don't even know how much time we got left, by the way, but if we got time, it's probably the most important part of all of this.
Well, we can include it. I usually don't go over an hour and a half, but this is special, so we'll keep going until we finish.
All right, I appreciate it, because this answers a lot of questions.
Let me see what I got here. Okay, that's it. It's that one. So back here, share the screen. Share. Now, is that the one or a different one?
One more. Keep one to the right.
To the right.
That's it. So what happened is one night I'm trying to go to sleep, and they had already taught me about the 7-pointed star, right? The importance of it, how it relates to cosmic harmonious frequencies. I'm talking about the Anunnaki. I understood the importance of the 7-pointed star. But this night, I was trying to go to sleep, and they're like, Michael, you got to get up and divide a circle by 7. And I'm like, how about no? You know, I'm trying to
Really?
go to sleep. And, and they said, well, you learned something, but you obviously haven't learned enough. I'm like, all right. So I had to go to my fiance at the time. I'm like, honey, I got to get up and do some math. She's like, all right, go ahead, you freak, you know? So I went, I go get on the computer and I go to the calculator and I put, a circle is 360 degrees. So I did 360 divided by 7. The answer is 51.428. So 1/7 the way around the circle is 51.428 arc. And the way that they did this is in my third eye, they showed me a circle. Then they took, I call it the Anunnaki astral highlighter. And when they went 1/7 the way around that circle and like illuminated it, and then let the rest of the circle fall away, leaving only that arc. And that arc is 51.428. And then they mirrored it. And it, like the mirror of itself, that was like the exact opposite. So if you picture on the, like, if you go to the top of this image, you go from 12 o'clock to, I don't know, 1:30, those two, that's 51.428. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it's pointing to the actual circle around the outside edge. That's a 51.428 arc. And then, so that would almost right there would be, it's I don't want to say a frowny face because that's not what it is, but you know what I mean? It's the hump is going up and to the right. They brought it up, mirrored to itself, and attached it so it made an eyeball shape. Do you follow?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It looks like an eye.
Yeah, it looks like the eye of Ra, actually, or the fish symbol for Jesus or whatever.
Yes.
So right when they did that, they said that's the true Ark of the Covenant. And the archangels are the ones that had this information, and the Ark was said to lead mankind to a new form of energy, right? Unlimited free energy. Well, it does. And but I'm thinking 51.428. Well, so what? Okay. The next thing I'm led to is, like I said, I've become friends with Graham Hancock. And he has,
I wanted to have him on one time. Anyway,
he's so awesome.
Yeah,
He's got the external side angle of the Giza pyramid at 51.86. And most experts on the pyramid agree the angle is 51.86. But now they've realized that the pyramid is actually 8-sided. And the 8 sides only reveal themselves on the solstices.
like there's a slight dent in the different panel. Is that right?
Yes.
I mean,
So,
I call it a dent, but you know what I mean.
Yep, exactly. So instantly I'm like, well, wait a minute. There's more than one side angle, right? It can't be just 51.86 because, if there's only 4 sides, it would be all the same. But since there's 8 sides, there's a hidden angle that only reveals itself twice a year. And I'm like, I wonder what that side angle is. And this voice in my head says, Michael, subtract your 51.428 from 51.86. I'll save you the anticipation. It's 432. Wrap your head around that in the actual construction of the pyramid, the actual Ark of the Covenant that is 432 related only reveals itself twice a year. It hurts my head, man. But then the next thing they showed me is where all these crop circles are showing up that are 7-pointed stars is through an Avebury, Stonehenge, that area of the world. I mean, 99% of them, that's where they show up. And I'm like, okay. And they told me what you need to realize is the world's most energetic ley line or dragon line or line of electromagnetic force that surrounds this planet. It runs through Avebury and it runs through Stonehenge. And interestingly enough, it's called St. Michael and Mary's ley line. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I can't
Yeah.
say that I have.
Well, all you got to do is Google St. Michael and Mary's ley line, and you'll find out 2 ley lines run through there. But the next thing I realized is the Earth's actual longitude line of planet Earth for real is the 51.428 longitude line of planet Earth is St. Michael and Mary's ley line that runs through Avebury and Stonehenge. And it's where all these crop circles are just dotted along that 51.428 ley line. People have been wondering, I wonder why all these crop circles are showing up in the UK. It's because
Of that ley
that's
line.
and that's where to put information in to change, bring new programming into the matrix of this reality that we're in. And that's what the crop circles are doing. So when they showed me that arc of the covenant, that eyeball shape, I instantly thought, boy, I really want to see a 7-pointed star that was created. Each point of the star would be the that eye shape. This crop circle showed up the very next day. Do you see that there's 7 petals instead of 6?
Wow.
But half of the petal is hidden. And it was pretty much like them going, we're seeing if you're picking up what we're putting down, because we're showing you the 5th dimensional blueprint of sacred geometry for 5D. Right now, we've been going through a 6-petal version. That's 3D reality. I look at it as the cocoon phase of human existence. And it's closed in the middle, by the way. And think of 2, they said, if you take a circle and multiply it by 7, you get the seed of life. It's 1 circle in the middle and then 6 around creates the 6-petaled seed of life. Then you keep adding circles and you get to the flower of life then. But this version is the same building blocks, but it's 7 around with none in the middle. We're coming out of the cocoon. We've been shut off in a closed loop system for a very long time in this phase of human evolution that is the cocoon. And nothing derogatory about it, because guess what, man? You can't have a butterfly without the cocoon phase. So this version of the seed of life is the next phase of human evolution, and we'll have a much more fertile soil to grow and expand into. And it's all feminine, by the way, too, because what happened, I'm sorry I didn't get you this image, but I seen that's a new seed of life is what it is, but you really can't see it. You only see half of the petals. So
Yeah.
I'm not that good of a graphic artist to be able to do it, but I went through 3 and they almost all had a panic attack and went crazy because the feng shui of making this image is beyond their scope. But the 4th guy did it and he cracked the code, and I've got the image now, and it is on my Facebook wall, and I'm making discs with it now, by the way. But it's very interesting that we've never seen, as a human species, brand new sacred geometry. Everything that we know of is the Merkaba shape. And remember, back to the crop circles, the only one that's the Merkaba shape was the first one that encoded E equals MC squared. That's where energy bubbles through dimensional levels. And the way to think about this too You know what? Can you just go back 5 for a minute? Because I want to show you something. Go back to the very first crop circle. Yep, keep going, keep going. One more. Okay.
This one?
Yeah, that's the 6 petals. And if you look at like it's 2 pyramids. So if you just connect the dots, you get the Star of David. If you put the Star of David and make it in a circle, every place that the pyramid touches the circle is 19.5. And this is important. Richard Hoagland revealed this to the world because every planet, the largest upwelling of energy from a higher dimensional source is along the 19.5 north or south line of the planet. On Earth, it's a volcano on Hawaii. Great storm of Saturn, it revolves at 19.5. Every place that's like the largest upwelling of energy is going to be through the Star of David, the Merkaba. But the 7-pointed star is the addition of new information, not the upwelling of energy. So, it's fascinating to me because all the way back to Leonardo da Vinci, he worked and showed this version of the 6-petaled Merkaba, Star of David, sacred geometry, seed of life. So I feel very fortunate that through the Anunnaki, for the first time ever since Leonardo da Vinci brought forth brand new sacred geometry. But I know a lady who is the physical embodiment of Kuan Yin, and she contacted me and said, Spirit's told me to tell you that you've brought forth the 7-petaled lotus geometry. And I don't know what they're talking about, but you know what they're talking about. I said, yeah, actually I do, because it's the 7-petaled lotus. And she said, what they're telling me is you need to look into Buddhist understanding of what the 7-petaled lotus is. So I did. And what it says is if you went across the rainbow bridge, which meant you cleaned your chakras, the symbol you would find is the 7-petaled lotus. Each petal represents one of the chakras, and each one is one of the colors of the rainbow. And that it's the sacred geometry of the rainbow body. And what I found out is Spirit does not give any extra manifestation ability until you've proven the Spirit that you've become rainbow. How it was explained to me is, imagine if 6 of your 7 chakras was all glowy and shiny and bright, but your root chakra was still dark and you're experiencing a lot of bullshit in your life dealing with abundance. All of a sudden, if you got all this extra manifestation ability through some evolutionary process and you still had a dark chakra, you're probably just going to go to what you have a fear stamp on and manifest the shit out of it, and it's not going to work out well. So what I was told then, because this came through one of the elders, his name was Chief Blue Star Eagle, he said, Michael, Spirit is smarter than that. No extra manifestation ability is ever granted until you've proven yourself to be rainbow. Once you've proven to be rainbow, your prayers will go to Creator with great enthusiasm. Isn't that interesting? So thank you for letting me go through all that.
That's fascinating. This was wonderful, Michael. I would love to do this again, actually. And
anytime. I'm an open
time.
book, and I'm starting. You know what though? This is it's getting very difficult for me to talk, to be honest with you, because each section of this, I've not even got into being brought into the remote viewers and what I learned with that, and the work we did. People don't know why all those storms, Hurricane Sandy, when it arrived into New York in 2012, all the energy had been, for the most part, removed out of that storm. And people don't even know, but there was an earthquake called Earthquake Charlotte that was on the other side of the United States. And it had created a tsunami that made a 20-foot wall of water that was heading towards Hawaii. And tsunami buoys do not lie. There was a 20-foot wall of water heading towards Hawaii. They knew it. There's like 4 hours before that wave was going to hit. And on the news, they had brought everyone on the island to higher ground to, so they would get out of the way of this incoming wave. When it hit, it was just ripples. That is because of the work I did with the NSA and the Anunnaki. Interestingly enough, the NSA gave me all the and I have these tasking instructions, and I've released all of this information to the world, by the way, all of the learning material, ebooks, essays that I was given by the reverse engineering division of the NSA that's working with the Anunnaki and technology transfer programs. I've released them all to the world, and it's just waiting there for your listeners. You don't have to pay anything. All you got to do is go to the Facebook group called Team Inky. It's ENKI. Sign up and then go to my files section. I've released it all with permission, by the way. At the end of his life, he said the time for secrecy is over, that you now have permission to release everything you have to the public. And
fantastic.
But part of that was I was given tasking instructions to those storms, and they said, we understand that you're not a weatherman. This isn't going to make any sense to you, but this is all the most accurate data from our satellites and everything on the storm trajectories and strength and wind speeds and everything. We know it's not going to mean anything to you, but all we need you to do is lay your eyes on it, because they called it a handshake. They said, we already know that you have a handshake with the incoming kingdom, Nibiru, and your counterpart that's on that planet, which would be Inky. And they're going to be looking through your eyes. We know that you're like their smartphone, that you don't need to know what to do with this information. All we need you to do is lay your eyes on it and read every word, and they will know what to do to take the energy out of these storms. So people don't even know. They're like, well, what have you done? I'm like, I've saved millions of lives on this planet. That's what I've done. And I've brought through technology that revitalizes and resurrects dead municipal tap water. I don't do this for any reason of wanting any glory or anything. Not needed. Like I said, I almost feel anymore that my job here is done. It's not, because I still have a lot of teaching to do. But people have no clue of the work I did that saved millions of lives. And that's just one example. A.R. Borden is the reason we didn't have war with Russia during the Cuban Missile Crisis. He saved this planet more times than people even know or realize. But all this information is just awaiting mankind. Go to Team Inky, go to my files section. It's all waiting there. What I would start first with is look for the one PDF that's called A Letter to Michael. And that is the very first letter in 2008 from them to me, explaining who they are, how they were formed, why that they were formed, and why they feel that they've been guided to work with me. And that's where I would start. But what I can say, getting back to the Wingmakers, is that division of the NSA is known as the ACIO. And the ACIO is revealed in the Wingmakers material under the Dr. Neruda interviews. And it's all real, man. I know there's controversy and people think, I can tell you up until the 5th interview, it's very accurate. But the 5th interview has the most truth in it ever, but there's some misdirection thrown in. I think the dark got involved and flipped some shit, like
for that.
My race, the mound builders, are actually the Atlanteans. You know what's very interesting with all of this is Edgar Cayce knew this, man. Edgar Cayce, people know that he did prophecy on the Hall of Records underneath the Sphinx of the Atlanteans. People don't really realize he also said what happened to the Atlanteans. He said that they eventually intertwined into the Native American Indian tribes, becoming the Iroquois tribe of Indians mostly. but it's all indigenous North American tribes. It's just the Iroquois have the largest numbers. That's what I am, Seneca.
And didn't they do the post office thing and the Constitution, or set an example?
Oh
That's
yeah,
right.
the
The Iroquois.
my well, in the Western culture, they don't believe in reincarnation, but we do. And the chief of the Seneca that met with George Washington, his name was Chief Corn Planter. And George Washington learned everything of the system of we the people from Chief Corn Planter, because this isn't how things were done in the UK. That was dictatorship. And he learned this experiment in democracy and uniting these states. They united their tribes. And so the first treaty ever, and as you said, the Constitution was part of Chief Corn Planter's teaching. But the Corn Planter tract says the land that is owned by Chief Corn Planter and his heirs is forever more his people and his heirs, and never to be trespassed upon by the United States government. They're to be treated as their own sovereign nation. And the reason this is important is because of my blood anomaly and the work with the History Channel. I am an heir of Chief Corn Planter, but I can tell you and your listeners that was a previous incarnation of myself. And America was my own teaching to through Chief Corn Planter to George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson, that became America, land of the plumed serpent. By the way, think of this: the plumed serpent, Coatzacoalcos, Mexico. The true meaning of it is Enlil's line is known as the Eagle Nation. The eagle, well, it's on the back of a dollar bill, right? And what are they, the light and dark? What are they vetting mankind to see what your behavior is? Look into what's being held in the, I don't know what, a paw or claw, foot of the eagle is the arrow and the olive branch. That's the two choices in life. And truly, if you use the arrow, you're going to learn that you're going to get your ass handed to you every single time. It never works. You got to learn to use the olive branch. And that's what the Eagle Nation is vetting every human. But my bloodline on this planet was known as the Serpent Clan. And when someone of the Serpent Clan is vetted by the Eagle Nation and gets the rainbow status, that all your chakras are clean, it's said that you've become the feathered or the plumed serpent. It's a state of consciousness. It's not.
Okay.
It's not a name. It's not a title. It's eagle status is the same for the Native American First Nations. The eagle is the only bird that flies above the storm and doesn't seek shelter below it.
My oldest son has the name Eagle. He's a half Native American.
Right on. Perfect. So, yeah, we took a deep dive in some of this, and thankfully, I kept it together mentally enough to connect all the dots, I do believe. So, but we can do another interview for sure, and we can hit on my work with the NSA. We can hit all the what I've learned of all the misconceptions about the Anunnaki.
It seems like you have so much to share and to educate and to set the record straight.
Yes,
that it would be a good
but it's
thing.
getting very difficult for me to just keep it straight in my mind and not jump all over the place. I tell people I get multidimensional very quick, and
Well, I followed you just fine.
Perfect. Well, you know what? You helped reel me in too. You asked the right questions, So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I guess we'll call it a wrap on this one. And
Right on.
When we're ready to do another one, we'll do so. Because like I said, I think you have a lot to share. It's very important, and it's just good. All good.
Right on. Well, I had a really good time, and I enjoyed speaking with you.
Same here. Ditto.
Good energy.
Thank you. And let me end the show. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Michael.
Peace.
Peace, peace, peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We have found our way. It's a brand new day, and we'll be making history. Are you with me? Won't you stay? We have come so far. This is who we are. And like the rising sun, we have just begun to play our part. This is the time we form the chorus. Lift your voice for those before us. We can rely on one another. Feel the pride, let's show.